Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, a good friend and frequent co-host here. Matter of fact, he was here Friday, Charlie Cook of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. And Charlie, as you know, if anybody wants to connect with the show, all they have to do is comment on the live Facebook or YouTube video, or you can, if you're watching on OpsLens, you can tweet. You can go to Twitter and tweet with the hashtag Bullet Podcast. And I was testing out earlier today, and is Riding Shotgun with Charlie going to be joining us from his Massachusetts home or his vacation home in Utah? Join us in 20 minutes to find out with the hashtag Bullet Podcast I put up. So are you coming to us from St. George or from Massachusetts today?
I am in occupied territory.
Aha.
Womp, 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 womp.
All right.
I got to tell you, I don't know if you saw the post from Tom Wall, but he scored a 300 on the class that he was taking with Masada Ayub. So I think that's worth
Masada at his own game. Yes.
That's worth what, $1?
$5.
It's $5. Okay, it's $5. That's it.
A signed $5 bill from Masada Ayub.
That is, I'm honored that he was doing something like that with his time beating Masada Ayub at Masada Ayub's own game.
Yes. It makes sitting with me for a half an hour almost worth it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, let's start with the news of the day. And this first one, man, I think could take up quite a bit of our time. First story I've got, this is from our buddy John Petrolino over this one. It went up at Bearing Arms. NYPD doing God's work enforcing law regulating toys. Yeah, and we touched on this a little bit the last time we were on the air, Charlie. NYPD, there's a law that regulates air guns, and they've been posting to social media. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. They've been posting to social media that they are confiscating a lot of these things, and this particular picture, all three of these guns were recently removed from New York City streets. Despite their looks, only one of them is real. The other two are bead blasters. Possession of bead blasters is unlawful and a violation in New York City. Another example of NYPD's ongoing effort to keep our communities safe. I guess great for the NYPD, kinda. Simply because if they try pulling that in a free state, they're likely to get shot.
They're stopping water gun violence. This is completely nuts. I remember over the winter, the New York the NYPD got a gun from a criminal, and it was I want to say it was something that was used to assassinate Abe Lincoln. Like, it looked like a top break revolver that you would see in the late 1800s, which of course, if it was before 1899, you don't have to have a permit for it because it's a primitive firearm. But they were gathered
federal
around.
Law.
It's federal. Okay, not a state law. Gotcha. Yeah. Well, these guys were hovered around this thing, having a press conference. I swear to God, it's like they caught Jaws. Like, it really was. And they're like, pulling out some hunk of junk that's 150 years old, proud as all get out that one more gun is off the streets. And this is such nonsense. Such nonsense.
It is. Get a comment up here real quick. Spartan 6 says, well, I'll sleep better at night knowing that NYPD is on the case. I want to slip into my Training Friday mode here a little bit. And I'm going to say that if you have the urge to take a real firearm and make it look like a toy, or if you have the urge to make a toy and look like a real firearm, in both cases, you should probably seek professional help. And it really doesn't matter if you're seeking a professional firearms trainer's help or professional psychological help. I think both will help you.
Now, I gotta say, I'm okay with people customizing their guns and making them look. I don't want to say look cool, but changing the way that they look. Like, I get it. You want to personalize your gun and change the colors and all that sort of stuff to make it a fun gun. Which I think that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But if it's obviously if it's a real gun, you're not going to treat it like it's a water gun or a BB gun or an airsoft gun. You know, obviously, it's a little nuts. It's a little nuts.
George Geller says, Red Ryder is okay because it has a wood stock. Well, shoot your eye out, kid.
You're right. You will shoot your eye out. You will shoot your eye out. So the picture that's at the top of the story looks like a real AR with a real Magpul collapsible stock.
Let me put that up real quick.
Yeah, I mean that looks like a real. It looks like a real AR, and the Beta Mag looks like a real 60 or 100 round magazine. You know, it really does. But when you scroll down to the to the picture that the graphic that the NYPD put out, that doesn't look like a real gun.
No,
it really doesn't. Even though it's got, you know, it's not black, but the other gun wasn't black either. It's just it doesn't look like a real gun.
Yeah, but what I want to go to, and where I see kind of the NYPD's point, when you get to this picture, all three of those look like real firearms to me, with the possible exception with the one with the red slide.
Now, the one with the red slide looks like a Glock. It's got the red slide on it. It doesn't look exactly like Glock, obviously, but it does have the fun switch on it. It looks like, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's a fully automatic water gel blaster.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to say this: if I were presented with something like that on the street pointing at me, I'm going to assume it's the real thing, whether it's a prank or not.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to respond as though it's the real thing. And so, yeah, I can reasonably, I believe, articulate that I could reasonably believe my life was in danger if something like that were pointed at me.
Yeah, but the is it the teal colored sky that's in that picture?
Yes.
That looks like a real gun. It doesn't really look like a toy gun.
I would almost argue that one looks almost more like a toy than the others, although that is the real gun, is the teal colored sky in the bottom right of that picture. That one almost looks more like a toy to me, but you can tell that when you get close up in that photo, you can tell it's a real gun. But at 7 yards in somebody's hand, you're not going to get the kind of detail to know if that's a real gun or not.
Absolutely not. And the same thing with the other ones. You know, if they pull them out, then they pull it out and point in your direction. If they want you to believe that that's a real gun, you're probably going to believe it's a real gun. If they ask for your money and say they're going to take your life, you should probably believe that.
I get a couple more comments in here, and that's why I'm falling down on the job here, folks. I don't have Facebook connected yet.
No, they've missed 9 minutes of good content.
Well, no, they've been making comments. But let me get wow. Have they been making comments? Holy cow. Let me get a few. We're going to be into comments for a little bit here. Spartan 6 says, maybe if we paint all our ARs to look like wood, the libs will not be so scared of them. Or maybe
Go ahead.
Maybe they'll just start trying to ban all firearms altogether because they can't tell which is the ones that have the wooden shoulder things that go up compared with the other shoulder things that go up.
I've seen a couple of pictures of ARs that have wood stocks and wood foreends. Have you seen these? They look kind of cool.
When I very first started going to SHOT Show, I may still have pictures of it around here. I took down a really expensive 35 millimeter digital camera, and thank goodness I did. There was a guy that made very high end ARs with wood furniture that was just gorgeous, and I got a bunch of shots of it. This has been 8-9 years ago, so.
Yeah, you said you had a camera. We got it.
Yeah. Anyway, Gerald over the Facebook side, Cabela's had an orange 1911. I complained about it.
Wow.
And he also said a while back a kid was shot that had a toy AK by cops. You know what? And I believe that was in Ohio that happened. I think I remember that story. I don't blame the police for that. I really don't. I blame the parents for that. I blame the parents for not teaching their kid common frigging sense and respect for law enforcement.
You know, respect for law enforcement. This is, if you're shooting the cops with one of these, it is certainly some parenting. Did you see? This was, man, I want to say back in June, there was video of some people like just throwing water buckets at the police on the street. And this is one of the, I don't know if it was in New York, but I know it was in one of the big cities. So where there's a certain class of people that don't have respect for police officers, right? Mm-hmm. And that's not something people grow up with, and that's something they're parented.
Yes,
that's in the parenting.
Somehow or another, I came across a video a few days ago. Somebody posted on social media. There was a young man getting arrested, and the young man's, I'm going to say 3-year-old, maybe not quite 3-year-old, but certainly not.
I saw this
little boy giving the officer absolutely what for, while this when Daddy was getting arrested. And, the comment was, well, do you think he's going to grow up to be a fine, upstanding young citizen? And I thought, I don't think the chances are good that he's going to win Citizen of the Year.
He's probably going to get arrested by the 7th grade.
Yeah. 2 great points here. George over on YouTube side says, you can't tell at 40 yards either whether they're real or toys. And 40 is the new 7. Well, here's the thing. We don't. I have not yet seen video from the Indiana Mall. And
and they said there was.
I've been told there's video from the mall. I have not yet seen it, and it really. I want to be able to judge from that video. You ought to be able to get very good estimation from that video of exactly how far away he was. I'll believe 40 yards. And as a matter of fact, just today, as I was going through my Facebook memories, I came across a post, I want to say it was from 4 years ago. I was at the Firearms Academy of Seattle taking active shooter interdiction. And that day, we were doing long distance shooting, and I shot 42 yards, weak-handed from behind cover, and was consistently hitting targets at 42 yards with my carry guns. And so it can be done. And the other thing I did that day that was incrementally harder than that was 25 yards, moving target while I was moving at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
And I need to get a hold of Bill McCormick, who's now running the Firearms Academy of Seattle. I need to see if I can maybe set something up for next year because that we can brand with polite society or something like that, because I feel the itch for training coming on again very soon.
Hmm.
But okay, well, let's. Anything else about this one before we move on?
Yeah. So back to the whole, 40's the new seven, and you can't really tell the difference between, between an airsoft gun and a real rifle at 40 yards. The difference certainly would be when they're firing real rounds out of the rifle. You're going to hear some muzzle. You're going to see some muzzle flash and hear a big bang. So
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you're not necessarily. The 223 round does not have a lot of recoil, no matter unless you're talking a true handgun. No matter what you're shooting it out of, there's not a lot of recoil out of a 223. So you're not going to see a whole lot of recoil out of whatever the rifle is being shot out of. But you're certainly going to see some muzzle flash. You're certainly going to see. Oops. I will call them back. I forgot to mute my phone. I am sorry out there, live viewers. I usually do that, but
Those darn extended warranties.
I'm telling you. Actually, that's the place that's repairing my Can-Am, so I do want to get to that. But we'll get to it after the show. Let's go ahead. Let's move to our next topic. And
Yes.
Next one comes off of Washington Examiner. Gun violence isn't just Congress's problem to fix, it's also Hollywood's. And Charlie, I want to take a little bit of a different take on this. I think both Congress and Hollywood have contributed to the problem. I think that people seeing, specifically people seeing old westerns and where the guns are shot out of people's hands on a regular basis, and things like Boys in the Hood, where they're doing stupid stuff like, that
Right, shooting sideways. Yeah.
shooting sideways, and you just bad gun handling and bad misrepresentation.
Representation.
Thank you, of what firearms actually do, has misled the public so badly that portions of the public are willing to jump on board with bad laws, to the point where we've got some lawmakers. I don't know if you've seen this. There was a somebody who's in the House has said that, well, when you fire an AR at somebody, it basically destroys the body like it's some ray gun. There is no body to put in the ground,
Right. Yeah. That's so. I'm going to say if Rob Campbell saw that and thought through it a little bit, he would probably say the reason that there's no bodies is because it's not real. Right? Like, I think Rob might be that much of a conspiracy theorist that he would believe that it's not real. I think we could tie this, before we get too far into this one, we could easily tie this into the last one, where we see firearms that are in video games and in movies, and then companies go out and make something that looks like that. Like, let's face it, Han Solo's DL-44, I think is what it is, if I'm not showing off my complete Star Wars geekiness side, but the DL-44 was off of a Mauser broom handle, and they put a bunch of different firearms together to turn it into Han Solo's blaster. And I want to say that Jerry Michalek at one point had a real version of the DL-44 that shot 44 Magnum, and he did a little Han Solo. So these two stories, I think they could be, knit together. Having said that, I loved watching Star Wars. I was 7 when Star Wars came out. Of course, I was 7. I thought it was real. When my son was 5, 6, 7 years old, we were watching all the Star Wars movies. We watched all of them. And at some point, I'm like, there's a lot of violence in these things. There's sword fighting. There's gunfights and blaster fights. And this is just the Star Wars stuff, They all were based off of this. And then you get in the spaceships, and then you have dog fights where you're blasting you're shooting other spaceships out of the sky. There's a lot of violence in the TV shows and the movies, and again, it goes back to parenting. You've got to say, obviously, this isn't real. This is a movie. There's plenty of movies that make things look realistic, even though they're still not realistic because they're still choreographed. And if anybody hasn't seen the video of Keanu Reeves doing the training for the first John Wick movie, you need to go check it out. He went through all of those scenes with real firearms. Out at Terran Tactical in I think it was in Arizona is where they're from, and all that stuff is choreographed. All this stuff is choreographed, and I was slow to the game to get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'll completely admit this. When I say slow, my buddy used to try to get me to watch it in high school, and I didn't finish watching it until I was in my 30s. And I couldn't make it through because it was so long and so boring. When I finally get to the end of it, I thought it was the greatest movie ever. Again, there's a lot of violence, and it's not real, but it looks real-ish, and there's a lot of gunfighting and everything. And but it's not real. It's just a movie. And then I would go back and watch some old John Wayne movies. I'm like, boy, this stuff is really slow.
Yeah, and we come back to parenting, I believe. I mean, I know my folks, if I would have, and I quite often, I grew up on old Westerns, and by old, I mean reruns of 1950s and 1960s Westerns that aired on Saturday afternoons. And when I was outside playing, we would reenact those, and of course I would be playing the cowboy, never the Indian, because it's much cooler to shoot a gun than it is to try and fire an arrow.
Right.
But yeah, no. If I were to actually have pointed even a toy gun at somebody and pulled a trigger, I think I would have gotten beaten within an inch of my life, maybe even just a little farther than that. So, I still think we're into parenting. I think we've got to stress that you are responsible for what your child grows into. So,
I said this. I've been saying this for 10 years. It's we don't want to raise kids to be good kids. We want to raise kids to be good adults. And I obviously got that from somebody else. But you want your kids to be well behaved, to respect adults, to respect authority, even if they don't necessarily agree with it. And then they can come home and say, you know what, this teacher did this, and I thought this was stupid and dumb, and blah 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 blah. They don't act out while they're at school, or they don't act out with the police if they're pulled over for for speeding. You just teach them not to be that way. You teach them to be polite and courtesy and courteous and respectful. And I think it's a lot to do with parenting.
yeah.
Yeah, but that said, yeah, no.
I pulled up a past DuckDuckGo search when we were starting to talk about this topic, and you said that the Han Solo blaster was based off the Mauser broom handle, and I'm not the geek either. And honestly, I mean, I may even lose fans over this, but Star Wars is far superior sci-fi than Star Trek. Or Star Trek, I'm sorry. Star Trek is far superior sci-fi to Star Wars. But let me put this up. I didn't realize how minimally they modified the Mauser broom handle. It looks like they just bolted some stuff on over it.
Yeah, they put like a makeshift scope.
Yeah.
Like that's really about it.
And then just kind of put something over the barrel.
Now, if you look really close, there's nothing to set that for stun, though.
Ha! You're right. You're absolutely right. Let's go over. I'm going to check and see if we've got comments. Pete over at Gun Websites says, for what it's worth, Terran Tactical is in San Diego.
San Diego. All right. I wasn't sure where they were. Oh, how come I didn't know this when I went to San Diego last month?
George says, Very few movies filmed in color are worth watching. George, you're showing your age there, dude.
Mercy, mercy, mercy.
All right, Gerald. The buzzards have to eat just like the worms. I had a double-barrel rubber band gun. Fun with the neighbor battles.
Nice.
So, and then one more here, and that is Spartan 6, and I gotta agree with him. When I was younger, I wanted to be the Lone Ranger, but then I found out there's only one Lone Ranger, and his name is Clayton Moore. Yes, it is.
Nice. God, I remember. You know what? I had a mask and I'm going to say I had a mask and a 6-gun, like a Lone Ranger kit.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say I had a Lone Ranger action figure, and I even had like a horse and trigger. I want to say, and these were essentially before my time.
Yeah. One last comment, and we got to start shutting this down. Spartan 6 says, and by the way, hand shot first, which is tactically sound. Slipping back into my training Friday mode, that's tactically sound. There was danger. He acted on the danger. Good on you, Han.
He unsecured his firearm. He took it out of the holster, and he fired the first shot without the bad guy even seeing. Perfect.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And as I said, there was articulable danger then. So if you can articulate, exactly, there was articulable danger. I think the reasonable man doctrine would have applied to Han Solo in that circumstance. So, Charlie,
we sit here and think about it. Greedo really looked like he has the Corona head. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, we've got to turn around. We've got to do Polite Society in just barely over 30 minutes. So we need to get out of here, man. On our way out, please tell everybody about Riding Shotgun with Charlie and anything else you want to plug, bud.
All right. Well, Riding Shotgun with Charlie is me interviewing people in the car as we drive around and talk about firearm stuff. I have episode 150 coming out tomorrow with Joe Dramisi. He is from Gun Owners Radio, and he is from the San Diego County Gun Owners, and I interviewed him in Lakeside, California last month. And he's an instructor as well as a radio personality. He's an instructor, and he's got a Substack called Get a Grip. And he was a lot of fun to talk to, and I got that coming out, and no Utah classes for a few weeks.
Okay. On my end, I'm going to invite everybody to join me 5 p.m. Central Time tomorrow, Wednesday, and then we're done. I'm leaving Thursday to go to Detroit. I'm going to meet my good friend Charlie and a bunch of other trainers are going to be showing up to help out Rick Ector with his women's shooting weekend. The goal is to teach over 2,000 women to shoot in one weekend. And there's Charlie, top of my head, there's got to be 30, 40, 50 instructors from throughout the country who are showing up to help with this. Do you happen to know?
I don't know how many instructors. I don't know how far they're coming from, but for our circle of friends, it really is becoming the who's who of instructors and who's going to help Rick.
Yeah, I know. Chris Cheng is coming from California. I know he's probably got the record from farthest away, unless somebody's coming from Australia.
Right. Not sure the gals from the DC project from Hawaii are coming, but I think Chris is probably going to be the furthest, coming from San Francisco.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, that does do it for this show. We're going to step aside, come back in about 30 minutes. Polite Society podcast will be on. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next time.